Good morning. So it is, oh, now I can't. There we go. It is December 14th, Saturday morning coffee talk. I'm super excited to chat with you guys. Um, this morning I have my kids in the room with me, so if it gets loud, I might need a second to adjust. But I'm super excited to talk to you about how I changed my life in certain areas, and I know that you can too. And I've worked with so many people and I see this happen with them, and it's just amazing, so amazing how different they feel when they do this one thing. So before that though, I want to talk to you a little bit about the I Am cards. If you got the Bar Blend early access kit, you might have got it in a digital access form, but I'm going to encourage you not to do that, and I'm going to encourage you to get the full kit, because these cards are not only like amazing, they're, well, not only gorgeous, but they are amazing as well for our mentality, I guess. I don't know how you say. Anyway, they're I am cards. There are, I think, 60 of them. And on one side it says I am, and then on the other side it gives different words and a quote on there. So every morning before you work out, you could pick one out, or you could do it in the middle of the day, or you could just do it whenever. Anytime you need like a boost of positivity, you just, and Elise talks a lot about them in the program. So you just pick one out, whichever one you feel you want to, right? And this one is I am committed. And you can see there. And it says, I understand the value of hard work and pursue my goals relentlessly. I just love it. It's such a boost of positivity when you read it and you start thinking about it in your life, and just bringing it in. The more positivity you bring into your life, the more positivity you're going to attract. So I highly recommend these cards. I think they're gorgeous. I think they just make you start thinking more positively, and what a boost of motivation every day. I am patient. I am centered. But let's stick with the I am committed, because I am committed to doing these coffee talks every Saturday morning. To be honest, my entire life has been very inconsistent. When I went to school, grade school, high school, it didn't matter, whatever, anytime from 12th grade below, I was always on my report cards, always been told I'm inconsistent. So it says inconsistent classwork, inconsistent homework, just inconsistent, which basically in my eyes, like I saw it as, had potential, but didn't live up to it, basically. And it really played on my emotions, on my self-worth, and I didn't know how to be consistent. Like, I wanted it, but I would get bursts of energy to do something, and then it would just fall away. And I thought there was something with me, like something was wrong with me. Later on, I realized that I actually probably, most likely, have ADHD. And when you have ADHD, you tend to have a hard time being consistent. And that's a whole other story. But what I realized later on, when I started trying to get into a fitness routine, I realized how hard it was to create a habit. And I went to start running to lose weight. This was a long time ago. And I kept with it a little bit, but there's a couple of reasons why I kept with it, and I'll talk to you more about that. But I kept with it, and then I hit a plateau, and I actually hurt my back also. So I had to stop running. But in that process, I learned a couple things on how I actually was able to stick with it. And then I got into Beachbody workouts at home, working out at home. And here's the thing, I already had 5 programs at home, 5 Beachbody programs. This is in the time when you saw them on the infomercial and bought them, and they were all between like $60 and $120. Most of them were around $120. And I would like be at home, and I would see the program, and I would buy it, and then I'd bring it home, and sometimes I'd start it, and sometimes I wouldn't even start it. And when I did start it, it would only last a week or 2 weeks, and then I wouldn't stick with it. But this time was different. I had already done a little bit of this running, and I learned a little bit about what could hold me like accountable and how to be consistent and how to create a habit. And then when I took those things that I learned and put it into the workout at home programs, I was able to actually finish my very first program. And that was Brazil Butt Lift. It was a 30-day program. I did awesome. I lost 8 pounds. And all of these little things throughout time of being able to be consistent started giving me more motivation. It started giving me more self-esteem. I was like completing things, and that never happened before. So I was very excited. From there, I went on and did P90X, which is one of the programs I had sitting on my shelf collecting dust, and tried to start over and over and over again, but would always putter out and not finish, right? And so I went right into P90X after Brazil Butt Lift, and I crushed it, and I got into the best shape of my life. And I was sold out at that point in working out from home. I was sold out in these things that I'm about to talk to you about how to create habits. And I just felt like a whole new person. And that's not just from like the physical transformation, but the mental transformation of actually finishing something. If you have your phones or your computers and you can get into the chat box, I would love to hear from you as to like, what was your story? Do you struggle with creating habits with fitness? Do you struggle creating habits with nutrition? Have you always been someone who's like spot on? Like, tell me a little bit about yourself in the chat box. But anyway, so after I learned how to create those habits, I started diving into habit creation, and how much it literally changed my life. It just made such a big difference. So let me pull up my notes so I make sure I stay on track. Okay, so I wrote in something before I got on here about how it's like a sexy topic. It's so not a sexy topic. Here's the thing. There's quite a large, let's go back a second. Let's talk about our nutrition and how habits can get into our nutrition. So here's the thing. Crash diets, because I've done all of them prior to Beachbody. I did like, what do you call it? Why am I totally blanking? South Beach diet. I did go to Weight Watchers a little bit. I've done keto for a little bit. I just cut down on my fats. I mean, there's a lot of different things that I've done, and none of them stuck. And when I did them, I would gain the weight. Like, I would lose the weight, right? But then I would gain all the weight back. Kind of like my fitness journey was. I would start something and then I would stop it, and then I'd start and stop. Anyway, and then I realized over time and reading a ton of diet books, like I always read diet books, that there's a couple things about nutrition that are similar across the board that all these diet books talks about. On top of that, habits are the things that get people to lose weight and stay at that point, like maintain their healthy weight, right? And it's habits that will get them there, and habits that will keep them there. If you haven't created those healthy habits, you end up gaining all the weight back, right? And that happened to me so many times. And I just want to help people learn that it's not this sexy diet that's going to do that for them. It's the unsexy creating of habits. And that's why we don't see a ton of books. And that's why we don't like go into these like crazes of like trends of creating healthy habits, because it's not the same as being like, ooh, keto, or ooh, South Beach diet, or you're gonna get these results crazy fast and they're super awesome, but they don't stick around super long, or they go in like waves. But if you, Alana Molstead from To Be Mindset with one of our nutrition programs, she talks about the register, I think it's the United States Register. Anyway, they have a list of people who have lost over, I think it's like 70 pounds, and then kept it off for over 5 years. And that's where she gets a lot of her information on how to work with people, because she's a registered dietitian, how to work with people and help them lose their weight and keep it off. And she goes with all of these stats, and And I feel like people aren't even looking at that information when they come out with these other like trendy diets. They're just not looking at what has helped long term with people, if that makes sense. But the one thing that has across the board in that document that has helped is creating healthy habits. It's not sexy, but it works, right? And so today we're going to talk about how to do that, how to actually create those habits. And I'm telling you now, it's not sexy, but it works. And if you want to live a life of like calmness around food, freedom, being able to take the energy that you put towards thinking about how to lose weight and what to eat and all that, if you want to take that extra energy that you're putting towards that and start putting it into other areas of your life because you already have that taken care of, it's going to be through creating healthy habits. This is not like society wants a magic pill or a big takeaway or like an aha moment or like this like thing that, oh, I just learned this and oh my gosh, it's going to change my life forever. But that the point is that it takes more than that. It takes consistent work and to start making these little habits work for you in your life, right? So things like drinking water first thing in the morning, right? Something so small, but it does make a big difference in the long term. Getting enough sleep, huge, right? Who would have known that getting enough sleep is the thing that can help you maintain and lose weight, right? Carrying water with you everywhere you go when you leave the house, eating more veggies in general, just eating more veggies and fruit. We all know, oh my gosh, you're supposed to have like 5 servings of veggies a day, but nobody does it, right? Unless it's intentional and they've created the habit. Keeping healthy foods available at home and convenient in your workplace, at home, in your car. The awesome call that we did last week with Kaylee, she totally mapped that out for us, which is so amazing. I love that call. If you have to re-listen to it over and over and over again, I highly recommend it. I'm actually going through my notes today from last week's call to when I'm creating my meal plan for this week, right? Simple, keeping it so simple. A healthy self-talk about your, like when you're talking to yourself, or if you make a mistake, or if you just kind of stepped away for a minute from your meal plan and came back, like the talk that you have in between your ears is so important to creating healthy habits. Exercising most days of the week, so 5-6 days of the week, another amazing habit. So these are habits that aren't sexy to talk about, but it's literally what creates the difference between someone who's been healthy and created actual lifestyle for themselves and someone who's going to crash diet, lose weight, gain it all back, do it all over again, which has been a big part of my life. I love James Clear. I'm going to bring up his quote because I love it. Let me see if I can find it because my computer is all over the place. Habits are not a finish line to be crossed. They are a lifestyle to be lived. And I don't know about you, and I would love to actually hear what you think, but would you rather live a healthy lifestyle, or would you rather have to constantly be thinking about food, getting on a crash diet, losing weight, then gaining it all back and feeling that like your self-esteem just constantly being beaten up? Here's some people's comments. I used to have trouble with both nutrition and working out, but since starting 80-Day Obsession, I've been pretty spot on with my morning routine and workout, but I have been struggling on and off with nutrition. Ashley, that is awesome that you shared that, because that's where I started with creating a fitness routine first, right? And that routine was a catalyst to eating healthy and creating healthy eating routines, right? But it was the fitness for me first that got me really to create that habit. And then nutrition has been on and off, but I was able to really, for 5 years, just keep it right on and live a healthy lifestyle. Meaning I also had chocolate and I also had snacks, but I was able to stick with it. Kelly said, hello, I ate good and exercised when in high school, but when I got out on my own, I haven't ever been able to finish anything I started. Started working out regularly, but yes, when she got pregnant with her second baby, couldn't work out at the end of my pregnancy. Yes. Kelly, sometimes when we already have a habit, but then life changes happen. Hold on one second. I'm going to grab my son so we can Get going. Go ahead. Take him downstairs. Take it downstairs, okay, buddy? Yep, here you go. Thank you. Yeah, life changes can totally derail us for a little bit, but I'm going to talk about how we can get back on. So I'm so glad you mentioned that. Lynette, pretty spot on for me. I'd be consistent for a couple months, then stop, then life got in the way, not consistent on nutrition. Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to talk more about that. Here's the deal. Let's talk real quick about how habits are created in the brain. This is going to be very generic because I am not a I am not a doctor and I'm not a scientist, or a neuroscientist, whatever. But let's talk about it just real quick. When we are kids and we start like a baby and we start learning how to do certain things and creating habits are basically things that we don't have to think much about when we do them. So a big one that everybody always uses as an example is brushing your teeth. When we go to brush our teeth, we don't have to make little decisions like, should I put the hot or cold water on? Which hand should I put the toothbrush in? Do I put my toothbrush under the water first and then put toothpaste on? Or do I put toothpaste on? Like, there's a lot of decisions around brushing your teeth, but we don't make those decisions consciously because they're already a habit, right? And habits are formed in the little tiny middle part of our brain called, I want to make sure I don't screw it up, the basal ganglia, right? So it's small and it's in the middle of our brain. And they know a lot about this because they've done studies on patients who actually got why am I totally blanking? Where they started losing their memory, right? Dementia and things like that. And they still had those habits in mind. So even if they had like damage to their front cortex, the front part of their brain, whatever, I'm not even going to try to use words, but the front part of the brain is where we make most of our decisions. And even if somebody got like into an accident or had an injury to that part of their brain, they still were doing things like brushing their teeth, or if they were in like a morning routine prior to that, they still tend to do those morning routines afterwards. And so that's when they realized where habits are formed and how habits really are a huge part of our lives. And we can use this information for things like nutrition and fitness. We can use this information to live a healthier lifestyle, because what happens is when you form that habit, you can take the energy that you were putting towards creating that habit. Once the habit is created, you still have to put a little bit of energy into it, but now you can put your energy into something else. So when some of you were saying, I started with fitness and I'll use me as an example. I started trying really, really hard. A couple years ago, after having a baby, I was out of my routine of waking up early and working out. And so it took me a good 4 months to get back into that early workout routine, right? But when I first started creating that habit, it took me a year of waking up early and working out. But when I stopped doing that habit and I came back to it, it was easier to get back into the habit. Still a struggle, don't get me wrong. It took me 4 months. But I still had an easier time getting back into that habit than I did the first time I created that habit. I hope that makes sense. Now, when I wake up in the morning, I wake up early, I wake up before everybody else, and I work out. And even if last night, I went to bed at midnight because I was up with my husband watching Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. But anyway, when I woke up at 5:30, I was like, I'm going to go back to bed. I'm still kind of tired. And I really couldn't. I laid there for another half hour and got up because it's such a habit for me, and I enjoy it now. I didn't enjoy it when I started, but now I enjoy getting up, working out before everybody else is awake. So I started with fitness, and then after I was able to create that habit, then I kind of moved on, took that energy and started creating other habits that I could put my energy, and that becomes a compound effect, right? So if you're able to really focus on one thing at a time, then you're able to really put that thing in place and then put your energy towards something else. So that's one piece that I'll talk to you about in just a second. The other thing is, I'm totally blanking, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll talk about that next. Let's just go through the steps for now, okay? Absolutely. Thank you, Patty. She said, absolutely makes sense. Thank you, Patty. I needed that. Okay, so Here's a couple steps that you can take in, like if you have a hard time creating habits, or if you're just working on a habit right now and it just seems to not click, like you're having a really hard time with it. I'm going to encourage you to do something that you're not going to want to do. Or maybe you'll be fine with it, but it's to break it down smaller. So for example, if somebody's really having a hard time getting like committing to a program where it might be like 40 minutes a day, 6 days a week, right? My suggestion to them is to only commit to 5 minutes. Just do 5, just press play and do the warm up every day of the week. I want you to continue to do it every day. And I'd rather someone stick with it 7 days a week than 6 days a week, because that one day might throw them off while they're trying to create the habit, right? But make it so small that it's easy to do, right? Like easy to do. Like you almost think to yourself, that's stupid if I don't do it, right? And I want you to just like keep narrowing it down. If 5 minutes is too much, get it down to 1 minute. There's so many books that I've read about creating habits, and some of them are like, they do a 1 push-up challenge a day. And then once you really feel like you have that in place, like if you're doing it, 80% of the time, 80% of the days, and you're like crossing off X's on a calendar, and you're like, oh, I only missed a couple days here and there. Now make it 2 push-ups. Like, it seems slow. Everybody wants like a quick results. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be working on other parts of your nutrition and your fitness. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that main focus should be small and create the habit with it, right? And you'll start building confidence as you do this. And that's how you can like take something that you're working on that's not working for you, like you're beating yourself up over it, make it smaller, right? And it'll compound. I promise you, by the end of the year, you'll be so surprised of everything that you just accomplished with starting with very small tasks. Okay, so make it smaller. That's number 1. Number 2, build an accountability system around it. So you have an awesome opportunity with your coach, with your challengers, whatever community you have in this system that we've created for you, you should use it. We have early morning people who wake up early morning and meet each other on the virtual gym. That is a huge accountability system or tool that you can use. You can find people in your challenge group, people that you know, other coaches, doesn't matter, and find somebody, like post it in whatever groups you're in. Be like, hey, does anybody want to start getting into the habit of waking up early to work out? Find some people and then create a little text thread and ask them to meet up with you at that time every morning to get your workout in. You're not going to want to ditch them. It's just like if you were like going to the gym with someone or going out to run with someone, but this is in your own home, which is awesome. It takes a lot less time. Great. And now you have accountability. So find those people. Don't be afraid to post in your groups and just look for people, message them, text them, doesn't matter. Swap information and get yourself an accountability buddy. It's so important. You can do the same with your nutrition, with every little step of your nutrition, with drinking water in the morning, with drinking water before meals, with drinking your Shakeology, which, by the way, those 2 things are easy for people to get started. I mean, it still takes a lot of time, don't get me wrong here, but they're one of the easier things, starting to work out every day and drinking Shakeology every day. Those are the 2 things that started me on my fitness journey. Those 2 things, getting into a habit of drinking Shakeology every day, has changed my life. It has changed my life. And even during times in which I might, like, there was 2 years ago when I was pregnant, I was going through an emotional, crazy mess for like 2 years. But I still had my Shakeology and I was still able to work out. And if I didn't have those 2 things, I would have been even more of a mess and my family would have hated me. So accountability system for yourself. Figure it out, get started there. And remember, those 2 things are great 2 things to start with. Drink Shakeology, work out every day. Try to stick with 7 days a week as much as possible. When you're doing 7 days a week, you truly are getting into this habit, right? Bring your Shakeology with you on your vacation. Bring like whatever you have to do. Stick with those 2 things and make them your first 2 if you're struggling on getting started. Okay? Make it smaller. Make it Shakeology in 5 minutes a day. Awesome. 3, dive into personal growth, personal help, or like self-help books, whatever you want to name them, personal development, whatever. I personally love Audible's app, and I listen to books. And when I'm listening to books that are going to help me with my mentality, with what's in between my ears, with what I'm saying to myself, then I tend to do way better. I can find myself when I'm not listening to something that's going to help me grow, I start to like talk negatively to myself, and I have to catch myself and be like, oh my gosh, am I listening to anything positive lately? Here's a couple books that I highly, highly recommend that you listen to. One, The Slight Edge. I don't remember the authors, so you're just going to have to Google them. The Slight Edge. Two, The Compound Effect. Those two are amazing. I highly recommend them. They're short, they're sweet, and they are so amazing. And they tie right into what we're talking about. Three, The Happiness Advantage, because I find that if you can get yourself in a happy state, no matter what you look like, no matter what weight you are, if you can figure out how to be happy in life, then you're going to start showing that to your body. You're going to start fueling your body how you want to. You're going to start having more self-esteem and confidence, and you're going to want to treat your body better, right? So dive into personal health. Those are my top 3 books for today. Highly recommend them. I'd love to know if you have any other books that you suggest. I have 5 more minutes left. Okay, so number 4, be okay for the length of time that it's going to take. A lot of people talk about 21 days. It's going to take 21 days to create a habit. That's complete BS, and it's proven to be complete BS. So hear me out. If you go with the 21-day mentality and you don't have that habit created in 21 days, you're going to be angry with yourself. You're going to be like, what's wrong with me? Why is it not a habit? I did it for 21 days and then I fell right off. You have to commit. That was our card today, right? You have to commit to the long-term solution of creating the habit, right? It took me an entire year. I'm not kidding when I say it, an entire year for me to feel like I created the habit of working out in the morning. And it changed my life. Totally changed my life. I used to go and be like, work out maybe at nap time. And then if that didn't happen because my child didn't nap, then I like had this lingering thing on me all day long. And I felt guilty if I didn't do it. And I was angry if it's like almost resentful towards my son for not taking the nap. But when I took matters in my own hand and I decided to wake up early and create that habit so that nothing else would really get in my way, and then also give myself grace if for some reason it didn't happen, it changed my life. But it took me an entire year for that to happen. So don't get mad at yourself for the length of time that it takes, and make it small so that you know that you can stick with it long term. Okay, so focus only on that one thing at a time. So that doesn't, like I said, it doesn't mean to not do other things, right? It doesn't mean you shouldn't meal prep every week. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have these other little goals. But what it does mean is that your main focus should be on that one small habit. Give yourself grace with the other things. You still need to work on them, but give yourself grace. Put most of your energy into that one small habit. And I know it feels like it feels like you should be doing way more. And I get that. But your confidence and your self-esteem is going to skyrocket as you compound these things. When do you move on to another thing? When you're hitting it 80% of the time. So let's say it's a very simple thing. Let's say it's flossing your teeth, okay? I want to get in the habit of flossing my teeth every day. And I get a little blank, just Google blank monthly calendar, right? And I put the dates in and I put an X and I keep that calendar right next to my toothbrush, right? Right next to it. So it's there where you're actually going to do it and you know you're going to see it every day. And I put an X down, and the first week there's only 2 X's. Then the second week there's 3 X's. Then the fourth week there's 6 X's. One more week, 6 X's, time to add another goal, okay? Another small habit. So once you're really starting to hit things 80% of the time then get that other goal added on there, okay? I wouldn't do any more than maybe 2 small things that you're focusing on at a time. All right, so I hope that helps a little bit. I know this is like a short talk, but I would love to get more ideas from you guys. So feel free to message me. Tell me things that has helped you. I would love to share them. And I'd also love to know if you have any topics that you would love to be covered in the future. Lynette says, thank you for reminding me of the importance of micro steps. Yes. Recommend any books? I hope I helped you with the book idea. Slight Edge, Compound Effect, and The Happiness Advantage. I highly recommend all of those. Patty says, that's my new habit. Can't work out without my gym girls. Yes, Patty loves the virtual gym. All right, I love you guys. Let me know if you have any questions at all. I hope this helps. It truly, I can't even emphasize how much it is important to work on those mini habits. So important. And get your accountability buddies, tie into your community. It's a ton of fun when you're working on these things together. All right, I love ya. I'll talk to you soon. See ya.